Please welcome Brett Haley and Nick Offerman. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Hop on up.
Thank you.
Take a seat.
Thank you for honoring Pride Month with decor.
With the Google colors.
That is right.
Thank you guys both for coming here today. The movie opens tomorrow, correct?
It opens tonight.
Tonight.
There are preview screenings this evening. The movie's playing at Regal Union Square and at the Landmark West 57th, so you can catch it starting tonight.
And we'll be there offering whip crack repartee much like this.
Correct. Nick will, anyway. Nick will be there
But
tonight.
I'll be using foul language because I won't have signed the Google contract.
You are welcome to use foul language here. We're all adults in the room.
Thank you.
So, I would love to get into the history of the film. Brett, you are the director and co-writer, and of course Nick's executive producer. And obviously, we saw you're in it. You played in it. Brett, probably you're best to start us off with this. How did the concept of this movie happen? How did this even get made?
Well, I've been wanting to do a movie in the music space, the band space, for a long time. I'm a big fan of that sort of subgenre of movies, and so I was, I've had this idea for a long time, and my co-writer Mark Bash and I have been talking about it. And we made a movie called The Hero, which with Sam Elliott, and Nick was in that movie. And after we worked with Nick on that film, I talked to Mark and sort of said, I think we found our dad for that band movie we want to do. I basically just wanted Nick to be everybody's dad. And so we wrote that script and we sort of developed it. We gave it to Nick. We premiered it last year with The Hero at Sundance, and we gave it to Nick before Sundance. And we're sort of like, put this on your radar. We want to make it this summer. And we did. We shot it in August, and then it premiered at Sundance in January, and now it's coming out in theaters. So it was sort of a whirlwind, very quick thing, but we worked very closely, and the movie is exactly what I intended it to be, which is a feel-good, hopefully shot in the arm of just sweetness and goodness and love. And it was made out of a reaction to just how kind of divisive and miserable the general Twitter feed is right now. So that was our goal, and I think we both went into it with these intentions of just spreading love and joy and music. So that was the intent.
And Nick, how did you I guess fall in love with this? Do you feel like you have to have a personal stake in a script before you take on a project?
Well, I really had a great time working on the previous movie, The Hero, with Brett, and I loved his movie before that called I'll See You in My Dreams with Blythe Danner, Sam Elliott, Martin Starr, and so when they, and they work really fast. Brett has a really clear vision, and I've always gravitated towards independent films because the artist usually gets to have his or her say without the corporate overlords saying, how can we homogenize this message?
And put it in space.
Yeah, and so I was already a fan and I was on board, and then they said, we want, to write you, we want to give you the Sam Elliott treatment on this next movie. And so I didn't really need to see a script because no one, I'm 47 and no one has done that for me or with me. But then when they gave me the script, I was incredibly gratified because I haven't gotten to just play, a human being that we see go through the banal scenes in his life, with vulnerability, trying to figure out his conflicts, trying to get his landlady to kiss him. Spoiler alert.
Toni Collette.
Yeah.
If Toni Collette was your landlord, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right.
You might blush up a little when you walk in.
I think so.
To collect the rent checks.
You mentioned that the character is it is very human. That was one of the things that I was left with. I've actually seen it twice already.
Super fan over here. Watch out.
And he wanted to be my dad.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not even out yet.
I saw a screening a while ago after Sundance, and then I saw it recently to prepare for this. But I walked away with everything throughout the whole movie was very real to me in a way that a lot of other movies I've seen haven't been, and a lot of it is because like I'm looking at some movies, like I said, shot in space or
Wrinkle in
whatnot.
Time, super unrealistic.
Right. Come on.
Swing and a miss.
In the realism department.
Yeah. So, I guess for both of you, and Nick, how much of the real you did you bring to this versus like a Ron Swanson type of character, or maybe that is the real you? I don't know you very well yet. And then Brett, for you too, when you're writing this, you and Mark were writing this. I mean, you're shot in Redhook. We were talking backstage earlier that everything was shot on location. You had your opening party at the art gallery, and you're using real names and real products. How much of that was you guys, and how much was just kind of by accident?
I don't want to step too much on Brett's answer, but it's part of the answer to the last question as well, which is Brett and his writing partner Mark Bash write these really great, realistic human stories. You know, they're not high concept. There's no big flashy hook. It's like, here's some people dealing with their shit, and usually love gets involved, and by the end you're like, oh, well, if we love each other, maybe things will turn out okay, which is not a great elevator pitch. Like, yeah, these people face some obstacles and they overcome them or not
Via love.
Yeah.
Lame.
But I mean, I suppose there's probably more of this character's foibles and goofiness and human failings. That's probably more like me than Ron Swanson, who is more of a superhero. I mean, he's kind of a cartoon character, you know. No mortal can eat that amount of red meat. And also, he can make an Irish harp overnight, drunk on whiskey. You know, he's hyper real. But so for this, I mean, when you get the script, and I've gotten 2 from Brett. The work is done for you. Like, they make it really easy for an actor because you don't have to figure out, like, why am I doing this? You just have everything's woven into the scenes. The backstory is very apparent, which makes it easy. So I suppose it was out of laziness that I ultimately chose to do this.
Fair.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, Mark and I, at least these movies that we've done, and I think they go together very nicely. I'll See You in My Dreams, The Hero, and Hearts Beat Loud, and they're all about just good people trying their best. And I think that there needs to be more movies like this that don't deal in dread and tragedy and just overwhelming circumstances. There's some kind of unspoken rule that for a movie to exist, it has to be sort of miserable in some way, or it has to be so big, like you say, in space or superheroes, and that's kind of it. To be an indie, you've got to be this dark and serious and overwhelming thing, and I don't want that from the cinema. I really wanted something like this that felt good, that made you feel things. Like, people tell me, like, we had our premiere last night in Redhook, and someone came up to me, they're like, I cried like 15 times this movie, and I'm not really sure why. Like, I wasn't sad, but I just kept crying. And I think it's because people can look up there and say, wow, this is something that I can relate to. We can all relate to the idea of leaving our nest, of leaving our parents to go off to college. And we, as parents, we can say, oh, if I have a child, what's that going to be like when they leave? Mm-hmm. We can all talk about the creative process and what it means to create something, not for fame and fortune, but for just the sake of creating something. These are things, you know, and there's a beautiful love story at the center of this film between Kiersey's character, Sam, and an actor named Sasha Lane, who plays Rose. It's a beautiful relationship. It's a queer relationship. It's between 2 women of color. It's just things I'm not seeing in movies like this, and it's not a plot point. It's not made to be something that is, you know, fretted about. This dad, accepts and loves his daughter for who she is, a queer woman of color. That's something that I want to see on screen. So, you know, because to me that's real. So the realism was at every turn of creating this project was there to create something that people could say, I believe this, I buy this, this is real, and you know what? It made me feel good. That's the idea.
Right. I really appreciated that, actually. That exact theme you're talking about. I walked away and I was like, yeah, that whole story between Sam and Rose, it didn't matter that, like, you saw it and it was just totally normal. It wasn't like shaping the plot, which I applaud you for. I think it was really, really good. But the main character, struggling musician, maybe still a child in his own right. Did this character come from anyone you know specifically, or just kind of a genre of struggling Redhook musicians?
Yeah, probably the latter. No, he doesn't come from anyone that I know. He certainly, Frank shares some of my musical taste and some of Nick's. Nick and I both love Tom Waits unhealthily, and there's some good Tom Waits references. And Jeff Tweedy, who, spoiler alert, makes a cameo in the movie if you saw him up in the trailer. So we love Jeff Tweedy and Wilco and all of Jeff's bands. So there's definitely my music nerdery is within Frank, but I think this idea of someone who, I love this theme of someone who tried to do something great and didn't quite get there. It's a beautiful theme in a great Coen Brothers movie called Inside Llewyn Davis, and it's something that is really appealing to me. This idea of like, well, I want to do this great thing. I didn't quite get there, so what do I do now? Mm-hmm. And then this little spark happens between them where their song gets on Spotify and Frank is like, maybe I can still get it. And it complicates their relationship. So to me, again, it's just tracking, I think, the reality of that character.
Right. Did you have to get permission from Spotify? Or
oh, yeah.
Really?
Every album cover shown in the film, every song played, every reference, you have to get permission.
Yeah, I noticed there's a couple of YouTube videos and like...
You got to get permission.
Yeah, that was funny.
Companies are persnickety about you using their brand, apparently.
You would wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a modern phenomenon.
Nick, you
Just want to give them some FaceTime.
Yeah, hello. Right side. How's the back? How's the neckline looking? Not good. It's fine.
So you executive produced this. Is this the first time? This isn't the first time you've EP'd something, correct?
No, I have executive produced and also produced a handful of film projects on different levels, and it's always if your title has producer in it, it could mean a variety of things. It could mean you kicked in money. It could mean that you texted Ted Danson and got him to be in the movie.
Did you do that?
Oh, yes, that is actually.
I thought
coincidentally.
I thought you were going to say no, like just as like a thing, like you could have done that, but you didn't. But you did.
I did.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah,
and you texted Jeff Tweedy.
That's my main contribution. So
Jeff and Ted Danson, could doers.
I'm gonna lead with that.
Is that any different from what you've done in the past? Why decide to put forth the extra effort and be an executive producer when you're already like the main focus of the show?
Well, it depends. It all depends on the project. I mean, if I feel that I can be of service, basically. And a film of this size is my favorite size because you can literally see everyone making it together. When you get on a big budget studio film, you begin to feel more like a prop kept in your air-conditioned container. And like, okay, bring in the bus driver for his 3 lines. And just the props department is like 38 people. But I like to work with a group of people small enough that I can learn everybody's name. And you can literally feel everybody making this work of art together. That's usually where I'm more likely to come in as a producer on some level. And in this, I did a lot less work than all the producers. It has more to do with me helping cast it. And I take morale very seriously. I try to act like the team captain. I got us cool T-shirts.
Tis true. Two T-shirts. A Redhook Records T-shirt and a Sonny's Bar T-shirt. For day one of the shoot, there were Sonny's. We were shooting at Sonny's, and there were boxes of Sonny's Bar T-shirts waiting for everyone. And that's the kind of guy Nick is. That's the kind of tone that he sets on a film like this. There's no reason to do that. He bought us How many ice cream trucks did you get us?
But I mean,
Too many, because I ate a lot of ice cream.
But that's the idea.
It was good ice cream.
You're basically a traveling Google. You just give out T-shirts.
That's
and
high
ice
praise. I don't know if I can swallow that.
Half my dresser is Google T-shirts that I have never bought, but
My algorithm might be somewhat simpler than.
I feel like I could ask you almost anything and get a pretty straight answer.
I'll take a swing at it. Fallible Google.
So you touched on the rest of the cast. So this is Ted Danson, Toni Collette, Blythe Danner, of course, Kiersey Clemens. Amazing actress. She's on the up and up, really. Like, how did you find you? You literally texted a couple of these people and just said, do this. But how did you find Kiersey? How did that come across?
I mean, I've been following Kiersey's star for years. I mean, I've been aware of her certainly since Dope, if not before Dope.
Great movie called Dope.
Yeah.
Sundance 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was there when I'll See You in My Dreams was there, so 2015. So she's been on my radar, and I think she's a superstar. She was in Transparent, she was in Easy, which is on Netflix. She kind of do it all, and when I discovered that she could sing, I did some deep diving, and I sort of found some like deep cut clips of her like doing Grease in high school. Playing Sandy, and I was like, oh, this girl can sing. And I'm a huge fan of her. And it's very hard to find the person to play Sam. I knew I wanted her to be biracial. I knew, it was just trying to find the right person who could sing, who could act, who had the right vibe with Nick, and Sasha was cast at that point. And Sasha and Kiersey are friends. And when I found that out, I was like, oh, we need to make this happen. And I just called Nick and I said, I've got a really good feeling about Kiersey. Are you cool if I just make the offer? And we made the offer. And she said yes the same day.
Wow.
So it was something that she just, I think because of Sasha and because of, like, it was very easy to go like, Sasha, Nick, Ted, Tony, Blythe, and me. Sure, I'll do that.
Brett script.
Yeah, and it's an 18-day shoot in Brooklyn. I can handle that. It was not a big, and I knew she wanted to do something in the music world and get herself out there. And now it's like we've made a movie, we've also made a record. It's very meta what's going on because our record comes out tomorrow on vinyl. It'll be on Spotify, iTunes. It'll be everywhere.
Google Play.
Google Play, thank you. Where are we right now? Yeah, Google Play, that too. But it is exciting that we've made this album. Like Nick and Kiersey sing all the songs, perform all the songs, and it's crazy. So I think it's amazing because she has such a dynamic quality. She's a star, and when you see her and then hear her sing, you're like, whoa! And all the vocals in the movie are live.
I was gonna ask.
We're not doing like in the trailer and stuff. That's playback. That's like kind of lip syncing. In the movie itself, when you hear the song being recorded, when you see them perform, it's coming through the actual mic that we did on set. So Nick plays a whole song on acoustic guitar and sings live in one take. It's beautiful and very, very sweet. And so that was also going back to the realism was making sure that the audience bought this We're Not a Band as a real band, and that it sounded and felt really real and not just like a music video where people are kind of lip syncing.
Yeah, you can often tell when people are like strumming and it doesn't quite match up or what.
We had to do some of that just because filmmaking is limited in what you can record, and I put everything towards the vocals to make sure we got live vocals on set. So sometimes you've got actors, literally, they have earwigs and there's these little earpieces that are playing the songs, and Nick and Kiersey have them. I have them in my headphones. There's like 30 extras. No one can hear the music. And Nick and Kiersey just have to sing and pretend play, and like sing a cappella, and the audience is like, yeah, this is so good. It's really awkward, but I'm like dancing because I can hear it in my headphones, and everyone's like, this guy's crazy. But that's the kind of stuff you have to do to make it seem real. I took cues from Inside Llewyn Davis and other movies that I think did it right. So we did our best on our small budget and scheduled them to do it that way.
Oh, it was wonderful. And then the songs themselves, Keegan DeWitt he composed all of it, right?
He did, with a little help from his bandmate Jeremy Bullock. He was our on-set coach, taught Nick how to play the electric guitar, helped him through how to do that, and he contributed some to a few of the songs. But yeah, Keegan is pretty good at what he does.
Yeah, I was listening to his 2009 album, like his standalone album, nothing to do with this, like all day on repeat yesterday. So, you know, it's a very good tone. It fits the movie. And then the Hearts Beat Loud, the title track, he wrote that in 2010, right? It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. It was a version. It was a version of it a long time ago, and I love the title. Like, it's always stuck with me, and I love the kind of earworm quality of it. It doesn't have a proper chorus. It just builds.
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry you guys had to hear it on repeat. It's gonna be stuck in your heads all day. But it has that great kind of quality, and I bought it as something that she could write kind of in a day.
Yeah.
So we started reworking that and figuring out how that would sound in this movie with a female vocal, and I just bought it as like guitar, like dad rock meets cool, new, young, hip, electronic, indie pop rock. You know, like it felt like a good mix of those things.
Like Redhook.
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. And Nick, he said that you had to learn the electric guitar. Do you know what instruments did you know before this?
The unplugged guitar. I mean, that's my main instrument these days is the acoustic guitar, which I play as a humorist. But I'd never played electric before, and it was difficult. I mean, the stuff I play is pretty rudimentary and folky, and so just to play like riffs up the neck, it was like learning to dribble, because my hands didn't know how to do what was required of them. But Jeremy was a great coach, and I had enough time, and I'm old enough to know that you have to put in your practice on the fundamentals. And so by the time we shot, I was able to actually play all the stuff I was supposed to. And I grew up playing the saxophone. I play a little bit of a lot of stuff, but no one ever asked me to.
He plays drums and bass and guitar, acoustic and electric in the movie. So he does it all, almost all. We didn't get him on the sax. He's kind of done that before.
Yeah.
Then Kiersey plays a synth.
Yeah, the sampler, the Ableton push, and the keys. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that all real? What she was doing as well was like you were trying to replicate it authentically.
Totally. Like everything, I learned all about Ableton and Ableton push. It was like a whole new world for me about how to sample and how to create a sample. Like, she's not like taking samples from other songs. She's creating the sample on the keyboard, recording it, playing it back. So we learned a lot, and you see that creative process in the film. You see how these, you can create such incredible stuff by yourself in your bedroom these days and record it and put it on Spotify. That's kind of the idea, or Google Play. And that's sort of the idea behind the movie, is that you can kind of create anything now with technology. You can go make a movie, you can make a song, you can, and get it out there to the world. And if it's good, it's got a shot.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible, and I love breaking it down like this. I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person, and I love watching it all build. Like in the movie, it just all comes together and it works. And then it's like, what's our band name? Oh, we're not a band. Okay, cool. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And
uploading to Spotify immediately. Yeah. Yes.
Right. What were the rehearsal processes like when you first came in the room? Like, was it you and Kiersey and Keegan, and you were all just like, all right, here we go, let's do this?
Keegan wasn't there at the beginning, but Jeremy was. And that was when Kiersey first arrived. We had a few days of rehearsal before we started shooting. And so she blew into the room. We had been rehearsing with Blythe Danner, who plays my mom. And Kiersey blew in and just started hugging everybody. And it was like a rainbow unicorn had galloped into the room. And I mean, I can't say enough about Kiersey. I think this movie would have been really good without her, and with her, it's sublime. Like she's just exceptional. She's such a personality and such a beautiful soul. And then she starts singing, and your hat just flies off, and you're like, oh shit, you guys got really lucky.
Yeah.
But so we were very gently coached. We both have musical skills to the level that we do, but there's an element of superhero origin story, because through the filmmaking, I can play a drum set, but they make me look like I can play a song, like we create a song like a Keegan DeWitt song, and that's a superpower. Where it's like, oh yeah, what do you think about this? As though I can casually come up with those riffs, which I can't, you know.
Right.
That's what it was really fun to see the movie and be like, I seem like a kick-ass musician in this.
It's really fun to see this scene where they're coming up with Hearts Beat Loud and see him playing the riff and see Kiersey playing the keys. That's all happening in camera. That's all real. And we allowed that to be really organic and let them kind of put their spin on it when they discover your melody meets my melody, and oh, that really works. It's pretty fun. And Kiersey's really playing the keys and all that stuff when they're, you know, kind of being inspired and figuring out the tunes and the melodies and stuff. It's that was, again, a big part of it for me, just to be like, yes, they're doing this. This is actually happening.
Wow. Well, cool. So if anybody has any questions, you can start lining up now, and I'll continue to talk here. I guess we'll go back to the location for a little bit. It's obviously in Redhook. We've talked about that a couple of times. Why Redhook, and why these specific locations that you found?
Well, separate, I'll let Nick tell his connection to Redhook, which I didn't know at the time.
You go first.
Yeah, when we didn't know Nick's connection to Redhook, but I live in Cobble Hill, and I have for 13 years. My wife and I live there, and I just always walked to Redhook. It's just what I do. I walk over to Redhook. When I first moved to New York, I lived right on the edge of Redhook and Carroll Gardens, like right on the BQE. It was really nice. So I just would walk over there, and I'd go to Sonny's, and I'd just walk around the piers, and I just loved the feeling. And it's sort of like this own weird, beautiful and eclectic thing in Brooklyn that's its own thing. It's Brooklyn, but it's Redhook. It's totally its own thing. And so there's just, Mark and I have been wanting to set a tale there for a long time. We did write another script that was no good that took place in Redhook, and we thought with this one, hey, why don't we have it take place in Redhook and go full. And it was great to shoot it baked and shoot at Sonny's and just out on the street and call this record store Redhook Records. It was really fun. So that's why, that. It's like kind of like home to me. We shot in Cobble Hill and Redhook almost the whole movie. A little bit in Greenpoint, but that was pretty much the movie. Yeah.
You and I are neighbors.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Well,
and then Nick, your connection to Redhook's really interesting, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did this and handed me the script, and unbeknownst to them, 10 or 11 years ago, my wife was doing Young Frankenstein on Broadway, and we were living on the Upper West Side, and the only caveat to her taking that job was I had to leave my wood shop in Los Angeles for a year and a half. And I said, good, I'll leave my clients. I've been wanting to build my first wooden canoe. This will give me the chance to do that. So I brought a bag of chisels and hand planes with me.
As one does.
As one does. And this, it took a little time to get through TSA, but I'm charming. And so I got here and I looked around, and the only affordable shop I could find was in Redhook, in one of those big old brick warehouses down below at the bottom of Van Brunt. This super cool wood co-op, and I got this shop. Out the window was perfectly the Statue of Liberty. It was super romantic and dreamy, and I built my first canoe there. Also Ron Swanson's first canoe. Named Huckleberry, and baked. I stopped at every morning. I rode my bike there every day from the Upper West Side, and just had this incredibly romantic year and a half, as though I was on the waterfront, which is set in Redhook. And I baked and Sonny's were two of my spots. So it was just a wonderful piece of serendipity when I read the script and was like, oh, this is me. I love their biscuits.
Oh, that's funny. So you picked Bake not knowing that he went there all the time?
Yeah, Sonny's, all of it. I had no clue. We sat down in LA, we had lunch together, and he had read the script, and he's just like, dude, like I built my first canoe in Redhook. Like I'm so connected to this place. So there's some kind of magic there. It's like I knew in my heart, like I wouldn't have made this movie without Nick. Like when we met and we wrote it with him in mind, and it was, so there's something obviously kind of Kismet-y about that he had that connection to, and we didn't even know that. So he's like, he was made for this role,
I agree. I love how he keeps saying his first canoe because he's built more than one. But let's take a question over here.
My question's more about like your roles and sort of like how they fit into culture, because a lot of your roles are like very masculine, but they're also super positively masculine. So I just wonder like how you feel about your sort of status as like a super awesome masculine character to like change how a lot of people feel about it and create more positive masculinity in the world.
Well, thanks. So there are some nice compliments laced into that question. I have great parents. I was brought up with good manners, and I love performing. Stories. I try to pick things that are medicinal in some way for the audience, and so through good fortune, I've landed some roles that have seen the audience accusing me of masculinity. And it's a weird thing to be accused of, because often certain sects of the audience are a little more narrow-minded or a little more old-fashioned, and so when they say masculinity, it's a little gross or it's a little old-fashioned. It's laced with misogyny or bullying or just a general sense of testosterone. And so, I don't know, given the opportunity to speak to that, I try to steer people in the other direction. And usually if anything I say sounds like good advice, I'm usually the intended target more than anybody. And so, regardless of what people ask me, when they say, like, how should a man behave, I kind of answer with my sensibility of how should a person behave, because men are part of the group of people, and I believe we should all be nice to each other, and treat everyone as equals, across the board, and that's my starting point. I am also aware that I'm human, therefore a dipshit, and so that's why I'm the first intended target. It's something we'll never be done getting better at, and so we should always keep talking about it, especially in front of a rainbow-colored curtain. My pleasure.
That's the quote from today, is I am human, therefore a dipshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, question over here.
So first off, awesome casting with Mayday Malone as a bartender in this movie. I love it. I have a personal question for things that I like to create. I'm actually going to be building 2 benches for my fire pit this weekend. I would love to have a couple words of advice from you.
I'll take this one.
Yeah. Brett?
First, wood, hammer, nails. Good luck.
Sweet.
Now take it from the master here.
Well, first of all, my wife, Megan Mullally, who's on the program Will and Grace on television, and she also played Tammy 2 on Parks and Recreation. Just in case.
Yeah, in case I didn't know. Yeah.
P.S. If you haven't been to nancyandbeth.com, that's the tip of the day. That's her band. She'll knock your socks off. Last night she saw the movie for the first time and still slept in my bed, which I take as a great compliment. She said that Brett's so good at making his movies seem real, which is such a great compliment from her. She has really exacting artistic taste. So I was terrified sitting next to her watching the movie.
Yeah, he texted me like, so Megan's gonna see the movie tomorrow, and now it's real for me.
Oh, it's terrifying.
I was like, yeah.
But she also said Brett is so good at casting, and that's why I wanted to reiterate that, because it's something you can take for granted, but when somebody has a knack for it, it makes all the difference. I don't know what your benches are made out of, but I'll suggest that you take your time, go to work sober, measure twice so that you can cut once, and if you're using bladed tools, make sure they're properly sharpened.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Cast your tools wisely. Over here.
Hi. So, Brett, I know you already touched upon the queer elements of this movie a bit, and I just wanted to say thank you for including that in the narrative, because It was really refreshing to read about this movie and hear that there are queer women who get to survive throughout the movie, because that's not typical. And I think a lot of times movies fall into those harmful tropes because there's just not queer women involved in the production of the film. So my question is, how influential were Kiersey and Sasha in kind of getting to like sculpt their characters and sculpt the narrative of the movie?
Thank you for that question. And I do want to talk a little bit about going back to the masculinity thing, going back to what it means to be a white, straight male in society and the privilege that comes with that, and acknowledging that privilege and understanding that as part of that privilege, we must be putting other people in things and in media that represent the reality of these situations. Not as a plot point, not as a trope, not as something to be pushed away or oh my God, you're what? What is that? Oh, like sort of doing that, which is so ridiculous. And it was always my goal to have a queer relationship in this film and treat it with no sort of signposts, just saying, this is like any other summer romance, which it is. Any queer person, any trans person doesn't sit around going all day, oh God, I'm this, I'm that. They just live their lives. And that's what I wanted these characters to be able to do. And by total chance, when Kiersey and Sasha came on board, they both opened up to Mark and I and said, you know, we identify as queer. And I said, well, tell me exactly how I can make this better. How did we do? And they said, you did pretty good, but they're talking about it. We don't talk about it. We don't sit around talking about how we're queer. We just love each other and kiss and enjoy the summer together. And it was a really big moment. And so we went through each scene with them. We spent half a day with just Kiersey and Sasha and Mark and I being educated. Tell me how you would want to see this on screen. And we did something that a lot of white men should do more. We listened. And so I hope that you'll see this film, and I hope that it will move you, and I hope that anyone of any race, any gender, any sexuality, sexual preference, whatever it may be, can just see a beautiful love story between these two characters and move on. And that's why I'm so proud. The thing that I'm also so proud of is how Frank's character, Nick's character, Frank, responds to it. And I don't want to give it away. I want you all to go see it. It really is kind of quietly radical when you don't judge, when you don't make it something that's bad or something that punishment is waiting around the corner. It's just love and embracement. And that's what we need, and that was my goal. And obviously I could not have done it as well as it is done in this without Kiersey and Sasha. It's so important to listen to the people whose stories that it is, especially when you have the privilege that I have. I have to acknowledge that I do not know what it's like to be in the shoes of someone else. So listening was key, and I owe them a ton for that. Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you. I have a fun question, though.
Not that wasn't fun.
Oh, sorry. Not.
That
no,
was
that's
super
not what I
fun.
meant.
Have some fun.
I've always wanted to know, in movies where you see old pictures of the actors,
Yeah.
where do those pictures come from? We see a wonderful album cover of
Oh man, that one.
beard.
Jason Mantzoukas
Busted
bust a
didn't he?
gut
Last night.
when
Yeah,
he saw that.
That's his old headshot, which is infamous. Just Google Nick Offerman young headshot and wait for it. I'm not going to give it away, but no, Nick gave me a ton of photos. And we photoshopped, and then there's a great playbill of Ted Danson in Status
Quo Vadis.
Yes, and that is real. That is from a production that he did on Broadway, the only time Ted was on Broadway, and it closed in one night. Which fits the character. It fits. I didn't know that, though. I was like, oh, we're going to use this play that he was in on Broadway. And then Ted was like, yeah, we did one night. I came back to the theater, and the security guard was like, what are you doing here? And he was like, I'm going to work. And he was like, no, you're not. So, he did fine, you guys. You guys are like, oh, poor Ted. He did pretty good. Yeah, it worked out, I think. So I love putting that stuff in, again, making it as real as possible. And we did some trickery to pull off his wife in the film and make sure that it kind of, I think they turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Brett cast a great actress, and we did a photo shoot, like, you know, which is, that's a testament to, it would have been very easy not to have paid an actress and instead just gone into, you know, the world of images on the Google location on the computer. But we didn't.
Yeah, we cast an actor and put him in like 90s and early 2000 clothes and like found pictures of Nick and then recreated the way he was in that photo. So it was his body, and then we took his head from the other photo and put it on with the act. So it looks really great. It has sort of a very authentic quality. At least we did our best.
Yeah, no facial hair. Nick always takes me for a loop, but you guys
I'll
need to
take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're not used to it. Yeah, question over here.
Hello. My question is basically going from being on a show that has like many seasons and being around those actors for a really long time. What's the difference between having like a smaller project, and do you see yourself kind of going more into the indie route, or is this something that like you're just still playing around with other things, or?
Well, it's interesting. You know, if you're lucky enough to get onto a series, period, you've won the actor lottery. Because the hardest thing for an actor is just to get a damn job, and you know, the term starving actor is become commonplace. If you're lucky enough to get on a series that's good writing, then that's like winning the lottery among the lottery winners. And so something like Parks and Rec is such a dream moment, because if I'm trained in the theater, so you know I get cast in a play, I get a script that's, you know, somewhere around 2 hours long, and you learn it, and then you do it for maybe some months. On a TV show like that, you get cast, and maybe they have a handful of episodes written, but if it goes, you all together get to create the lives of these characters, and it's really gratifying because these really smart writers, they deserve most of the credit, have the wherewithal to say, okay, we're, you know, season 4, where are we going to take these people? And, you know, they came up with such positive, beautiful, and hilarious things for us to do. And so that's to get to do that for 7 years is just beyond. You know, it's incredible. But it doesn't feel very different than working on a film like this. It's just a different duration. If for some reason a channel like or a website, I don't if you know any computer companies, if they called Brett and said, "We love your movie. How would you feel about making 100 episodes of it or something?"
I'm available.
Then it would be the same for me. It'd be like, oh, we're going to keep following Frank in his life, and it's I don't know. My wife and I both choose our projects based on our feeling that the writing is good and is somehow going to help us evolve, or at least make us laugh uncontrollably. Those are the parameters. Because I don't know if Children's Hospital is particularly evolutionary, but we thought it was super funny, and we did think that it breaks down rules of what comedy can be. But I don't have any particular ambition. Whatever the next good writing that comes in, it could be for the stage, it could be indie film, could be studio movie, but probably not, because they're usually not as good writing because they've been through corporate, it's art by committee. Or it could be a TV series, whatever. I'm not particular, as long as I can spend some time in my wood shop, I'll be happy to show up and be in your project.
Always.
Cool, thank you. And we got time for 2 more questions. Let's take this one.
Hi. So I don't know how like quickly a movie goes through or something like that, but going from August to Sundance in January and doing 18 days to shoot, did it feel very rushed? Does it feel?
No, all the time in the world. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was very rushed.
It's crazily fast.
It was gnarly.
Do you feel like you kind of missed something, or do you feel like you kind of wanted to put something else in?
You always do. I mean, I can't, not a healthy hobby to look back at the movie and go, man, I should have done this, and I wish that one scene was like that. I made the movie I wanted to make, and that's because I was told, hey, you're gonna have 18 or 19 days. You have this much money. Here's where you can shoot it. These scenes need to take place in these locations. Good luck. And so I knew what I was going into, and Mark and I knew, and so we worked that into the script to ensure success, at least for the level of success that this movie is going for. It is, people sometimes call my films small films. I don't mind that at all. It doesn't bother me in any way to call my movie a small film, because it was quick, it was cheap, it was a little scrappy, but it has, the themes within it are big, are the biggest ones that we talk about. Love and a father and a daughter and creation and dreams and grief. These are not small things. These are big things. And you just kind of go. You know, it's like I finished the movie August 31st. I knew I had to submit to Sundance at the end of September. I didn't want to have to work, 7 days a week with my editor, 18-hour days. I didn't want to do that. My wife certainly didn't want me to do that. And Patrick, my editor's wife, who has a kid, she wasn't happy with me for 18 days or for the month. But we did it. We pulled it together. We got a cut to Sundance. Thankfully, they loved it. We got in, and we finished the movie by Christmas and turned it around. But it's all very fast. I mean, the movie's going to be out to the world and kind of boom, poof, before, the 1-year anniversary of us shooting it. But that's great. I love that pace. When you work on something for a really long period of time, for me as a director, you can get a little lost in it. Unless we want to do Hearts Beat Loud, the TV series. Right. I will give 100 episodes for that. I'd be very happy to do that. So.
And I would like to add a couple things. One is that Brett, it was incredibly fast, but Brett, I don't imagine he ever felt rushed, because he knows what he's doing. He has a very clear vision. And there were things in the script. There was a very romantic scene where I was riding my bicycle over the East River, probably on the Manhattan Bridge, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna shoot me riding a bicycle with like the sky, and it'll be
drone shot.
Yeah. And and immediately, as soon as the line producer started laying out the schedule, they're like, okay, that's cut. And we were like, okay. But when I was doing, and I'll nutshell this, when I was doing theater in Chicago, I learned this lesson that I think really applies to art of this size. My theater company was very broke, and we did a car chase between a cop car and some bad guys with these two cars that we built out of like refrigerator boxes with great paint jobs. And we had Koken stagehands, it's a kabuki convention, people in black robes, like shoving the cars around. And with sound and acting and this convention, the audience totally got what we were doing and was with it, and oh shit, a fruit cart came out and got tumbled ass over teacup. And then at the same time, some friends were in a play at a big, great theater company in Chicago. And in this play, somebody rode a motorcycle on stage. They made this cool entrance on a Harley. And I went and saw this play, and I just really noticed the difference between when you have the budget to be like, let's fucking ride a motorcycle on stage. It's briefly and superficially impressive, but there's no magic involved. So you're like, whoa, that's loud. That's a real motorcycle on stage. Okay, that's over. But when you involve the audience in the mechanization of creating whatever the magic of the storytelling is, it's so much more satisfying, and I just think it makes better art to place limitations on it so that we all have to work together to say, let's tell a story. This is a rabbit, and everyone's like, okay, I'm with you, then we're together. Where as opposed to being like, check out this fucking rabbit.
I think the limitations that are put on me constantly as a filmmaker do bring out the best in you, because you have to say what is essential to tell this story appropriately. You can't be like, what, like you said, like, oh, we can do this. You end up wasting a lot of time on stuff that you're like, well, that's pretty, but it doesn't really help move the story along. So Mark and I were like forced to go, what really is going to help this movie? So I don't mind it. I will certainly take more money and more days to make a movie. I mean, if anybody's giving those out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, final question, real quick.
Brett, you talked about how you were all about the big, happy positivity to counteract today's world, but then you mentioned Inside Llewyn Davis a couple of times as inspiration, which I feel like is not exactly that.
Yeah, no, that movie's not.
I'm curious what you took from that movie, and if there are any other music-centric movies that you took as inspiration for this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this is certainly not Inside Llewyn Davis. I think it does share that theme of being good but not great and not having made it and what that means. And the Coen brothers movie certainly goes in a much different direction than ours does, but I think they actually have similar outcomes, because again, this is not the Rocky Battle of the Bands movie where they go and get fame and fortune. This movie's not about that, going after that star.
Can you find happiness if your dreams don't come true?
Correct. That's what it's about. And I think Inside Llewyn Davis is having a very difficult time. I think our characters do find some kind of peace and happiness and love within failure, or within coming up short of what someone's goal was. I mean, I'm fascinated by that just as an artist, as a person with aspirations. What does it mean to be satisfied by said art? Is the doing of it enough? It should be. It's hard to not put success and money and fame and all that bullshit on top of it, but that's what I'm after. And so the real movies that tonally I think we mixed in sort of a blender for this would be High Fidelity, That Thing You Do, which I adore, and Once, probably. And then there's a great Japanese film called Linda, 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 about an all-girl band that's incredible. So I would say those 5 movies with Llewyn Davis, kind of in a blender.
Also, the Music Man.
And West Side Story, you know. But I think that kind of blend of the realism of Once and the joy, like That Thing You Do is not again, it has the feeling that I think this movie has, where you can watch it and just go, yeah, that made me feel good. There isn't anything tragic that's going to happen. The filmmaker is not going to knock you in the face when you turn the corner. It's just kind of taking you on this journey, showing you beautiful characters, interactions, what it means to have gone through something, and that is 100% the goal. And anytime you open a movie and you start looking at the reactions, and it's like, this is what we wanted to do. And I hope that you all will go check out the movie, because
there is conflict and there is resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Everybody help me thank them for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.